Bill, good day. Dan, yo. Mark, hello. Whoever else is in the background there. Anyway, what's happening here? Hey guys, what a weekend. What a crazy month. What a crazy life. I don't know where you even start with this. Stuff's going down. That's where we're at. I spent a couple of days at the foundry and I've got another one yet to go, and we hopefully will have a gear next week, which is a bit sort of nice as a drive gear, and a few other bits done before then if we get it sort of a wriggle on. Tea and biscuits, hello people of the internet. Yeah, that's yourself. Mark Osborne, good day. Now, it's all happening. Let's have some lights. Damn it. All happening. There's a few things that have gone on. I haven't actually got any of these metal bits put together yet. There we go. I've got a lot of new metal bits. This is a signboard. It needs another coat of paint at some point. Might happen tonight, but it might happen tomorrow night. We'll see how we go on with that. I'll show you what that's for in a minute. These are two Lazy Susan turntables, which are also for stuff. Big one, a little one. See how we go with that. We'll talk about that in a minute too. So there we go. Bought a box of bolts, because a box of nuts, because you can't get 5/8 nuts anywhere, right? There you go. Can't get 5/8 Whitworth nuts. Bit of a pain. Anyway, can't get them anywhere. Can't just buy 2 of them. Can't buy 10 of them. Whatever. Got a box of 200. Right. Very heavy. Box of 200 5/8 Whitworth nuts. Anyone wants any 5/8 Whitworth nuts, sing out. I'll bring you some. Easy as that. If you need them for a project, Mark, that's you I'm talking to, a fridge or anyone else, count them up and I'll bring you some. Because they weren't crazy expensive, and if I bought 10 of them they might have nearly been as much, but I do have 200 of them. I have some decking bolts or something else. Anyway, that's a project that we're not even going to talk about at this point. So these are pretty heavy, but there's 200 of them there. Anyone who wants them, I'll share them out. Happy to do that. Now, what else? These clips turned up. Little tool clips. Very cool. Only turned up today. There you go. Look at that. It's just the thing. Very excellent. David Bellany, good morning. So this has been pulled apart and cleaned. It didn't get any actual polishing because I don't think I have any actual polish. It might get some polishing at some point, but I did pull it apart and clean it, sort of, which was a definite improvement. This is a gauge glass protector for the Fowler roller, right? That's what that is. Goes over the glass, protects it, simple as that. However, because it's down there on the floor and a bit of a pain in the neck of a thing, to be honest. Even on a D series roller, it's a pain because the running board's not big enough. On Mark's little T series, it's going to be a real pain because it's nowhere near big enough. But it needs a screen behind it so that you can actually see the water level, because it's dark in there. And unless you've got a torch and a pencil to hold behind it, you can't tell what the water level is. It's a bit of a nuisance. So the thought was we'd find some clips, and they were sourced reasonably easily and turned up because RS components are quick. Toll Express is not as quick as that, but RS components are good. And got them. And there's enough of them for a few gauge glasses, so maybe they'll fit fridges as well. What I'm going to do is get a bit of aluminium, the right size, and pop rivet these 4 little clips on, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Prep riveted on the bit of tin, then paint some stripes on the bit of tin. And if you need to take this off, it just hand clips. You just lift it off the back, nice and solid and secure, and job's done. So that's a win, right? We need wins, and that's one of them. So I think that's going to be really good. There's only about 3mm gap behind here, which will be really good. And be able to take everything apart and clean it still. Or if you've got a broken glass and you've got to get this off in a hurry, you can just prise it off quick. Do we carry spare glass on the roller? Very good question. No, we will before very long. I think it's a work in progress, but at the moment I don't have any spare glass. It's a bit of a concern. Next time we steam it, we might have. There we go. So, pretty happy with them. That's a definite win. That's going to be excellent. Going to be very good. We like that. While we're on the subject, there's another bag of nuts here that I picked up at some point. And they were put away in the cupboard when I got them out the other day. Anyone's got any use for these, you're welcome to some of these too. They're 7/16 Whitworth. Not particularly helpful, but if you've got anything that's 7/16, which is nothing on the roller, there's some nuts there. Speaking of bolts, because I've been doing a bit of an inventory, I have these as well, right? These are sort of spoken for because someone's doing some line shafting. But these are 1/2 inch Whitworth. Very cool. So I've got 36 of them in a box. What's left in the box I bought somewhere. If I go into a bolt shop, I usually ask if they've got any old Whitworth stuff. And if they do, I take the lot. It's a really good idea. Anyway, so they're the things that have gone down this week. I did pick up 3 of these. Now, issue being that they're different to the other one I've got, which you always thought there was going to be, but I didn't really expect it on this instance, but there must be different patterns of them. I was looking for number 4 cast grease caps, of which I have one. Now, I think these are a little bit later or different. I don't know what's different about them, but I've got one that's genuine to the roller. And then I picked these up on Facebook. Someone had them. Or they had some number 3s and asked if they had any number 4s, and they had 3 of them. So 2 of these go on the back axle, on the brake axle, on the brake shaft. One of them goes in the back of the headstock. They need cleaning up. They're full of dirt and grease and stuff. If we have a look, There they are, the same size. So these are a different pattern though on the side. Quite a bit different. Anyway, they've got different writing on it. This one says Storfer system. The other ones have got Storfer's patent registered England or something on them and a number 4. So these will do for a bit. We'll keep looking. At some point I'll put these on something else. There you go. So that's another thing that's a work in progress. But you've got to get them cleaned up at some point soon. He didn't do any like actual degreasing before he posted them. He just wrapped them up in a lot of bubble wrap so that they wouldn't get grease everywhere. So they need to wash up. Get a bath with some petrol in them this weekend and give them a scrub. I think I'm actually probably going to be home for a couple of days this weekend, which is a first for a bit. It's been a while. So that's that. Cast one of these. This is just a pretty rough example, but it's not terrible actually, with the 4 cores in the mould. I learned a lot from doing this, and this is just an aluminium one, but this is really clean. This is really clean. This one's pretty clean. This one's not quite as clean, but I don't think it's actually dirty. I think it's just it'd probably clean up all right with a file because it's a bit deeper, they're thicker there than it should be. So with a bit of work, that's probably not a terrible impeller. But it is aluminium and it needs some machine work. Hey Stuart. Hey Nigel, good day. So that's something that I've learnt. This is a bit of a, spent Sunday and Tuesday, a bit of both days messing around with that, and we poured one to see how it works, and I think we got a win, sort of. I think that'd clean up, but I think we can get it much tidier. So someone else has already gone ahead and done this for me, so I'm not going to persevere with this any further, I don't think, but I think we've got the idea. Mate William in Grafton has got a old bandsaw. He's doing a lot of jobs for me, so I'm doing a couple for him. Old bandsaw that's got a broken one of these. Don't know where the genuine one is. It's here somewhere. Probably should find that at some point. But it's a broken one, and I've cast in 2 aluminium ones, which the Chirpy pointed out the aluminium is probably a little bit hot. I don't think it's terrible though. They're not bad. And they'll do the job with a coat of paint and some holes in them. And they just bolt on basically, and there's a timber guard that the blade runs in and goes up here. So we did them. Fun things to mould because they're so deep, but they come out all right. So they're for William. What else? These bits. Did these. These are also for William's engine. He's got an engine that his father bought him when he was born. Which is a little line shaft, hit and miss side shaft engine, about half through a third of a horsepower, half a horsepower. Bigger than quarter probably. It's probably much smaller than 1 horsepower. I don't think it's that big. It's a little producer gas or town gas engine. Early 1885, 1895, something like that. With a side shaft on it. Now it's one of the kit engines that you used to buy off the back of Popular Mechanics or off the back of Model Engineer or whatever engineering business newsletter or rag sheet you used to buy. English Mechanics or the Australian version of. You buy a set of castings and make it up to make a workshop engine to run your lathe or whatever, and that was the idea. There was lots of them. Yeah, that's poor William got this engine anyway. But it's never ever had mains. I don't think it's ever had main bearings in it, ever. and it was a pretty ordinary sort of a impression. These are sort of oval shaped. There's enough in them. They're more than oval shaped, but these are gunmetal, and they're not bad. I think they want machining on the ends and splitting, and soft soldering together, and then boring, putting in the machine, setting up and line boring or whatever you want to do with it. Run a reamer all the way through it, because it's only about an inch bore or something like that. It's not even that big probably. It's a tiny little engine, about 13-14 inch flywheels. So anyway, been asked to do them, and I thought, well, we'll just do them. So we've got 2 of them cast. Good stuff. Cores and all. See that? They're pretty fancy with the cores in them and everything. We're getting good at this. So there's that. That's another job that we've done. All our spare time. No, there's a lot of hate in buying and selling engines, but I don't know if there's any money in it. There probably is, but it's very difficult to have the mindset that makes a lot of money off other people's hobbies. It's not something I'm very good with. I don't expect people to make money off me and my hobby, so I really don't expect to make money off other people's hobbies. That's probably wrong, because I think a lot of people probably... I just dropped a tap. I'm going to have to pick that up at some point. There it is. But you wouldn't get back the time you put into them if you were going to rebuild them. Anyway, so next item on this list of crazy jobs that I'm attempting. I've got nothing else to do, etc, etc, etc. Haven't got to these yet. These need fixing at some point. Might get to them this weekend. We'll see. We'll see how our life goes. I've got a spanner. I actually own one of them. Try not to use it as a fool of a thing, to be honest. I'm going to hang it on the wall though. There we go. I'll put the tape measure away too, eh? Barrel taps for William too. Oh, I picked these up too. Well, we're getting useless stuff for nothing. Phil gave me these. Right. There's a useful bag of stuff, isn't it? Not sure why, but there we go. Haven't really cleaned these up. They've probably got stuff written on them or stuff. That's not a bad looking. Some of these are not bad looking grease cups, but got to have a use for them. This one's a late model tin one, as is this one. There's no weight in that. This looks like the bottom of an oiler or something. I don't know what that is. If anyone knows what that is, let me know. And there's another late model tin one. So we've got one, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7 grease cups, none of which are the same. Very useful. Don't think that's a grease cup, it's something else. This one's a huge big one. If anyone wants, same deal, if anyone's looking for grease cups for something, or a random grease cup for a machine, that's where we're at with that. Very nice. Quality merchandise. I'll put them away somewhere. Probably they'll go to the steam shed, and at some point someone will use them for something. Or they might not, depending how keen they are. We'll try and clean this bench. We'll put the vernier away. Raymond, g'day. James, g'day. The guard for the launch, the back guard, delivered that to get it tagged with TIG welded up, so I'm going to pick that up at some point in the next few days. So next week we might have that actually done. Very cool. That hasn't actually got it installed any closer, but that might be done. Now, I'll just grab this. Give me a second. Peter questions anything bought in a brown paper bag. That's right. Right, I'll turn this back around so you can actually see us. Now, donation box. This is what we're working on, bit 2. Right, I'm going to have to take a step back on this one, because it's bigger than the bench nearly. This is an old Motor Spirit box. I think we saw this the other week. Right, put a lid on it. There you go, how cool is that? Got a lid on it. And some grooves in it. I'm going to run some plywood through here. And about 75, 80 mil or something tall. A couple of grooves. And then I've got a matching top. So that, very cool. With a gap in it. So we're going to have basically the mechanism in under there that you can actually see. And see the coins going through it and all that sort of stuff. And that also gives us something to, like 2 points a little bit far apart to stick the backpack, or to put the surround and everything on. So that's the theory. Now, I got this board, which I painted up. It needs another coat of paint. But I'm going to put donations on this, screw it on here somewhere, so that it looks sort of part and it's easy to see. So that job's done, nearly. I'll give it another coat of paint at some point and put some words on it and screw it on here. Put a couple of big brass bolts or something in it so it looks good. As far as mechanism goes, let's have a look at this. Oh my gosh. This is William and I's sort of brainchild a bit. We've been brainstorming this a bit, but we need something that's gonna sit at the shed and general public can fight over who's putting the next coin in. That's the sort of donation box you want. You don't want something that just sits there that people forget and ignore. So this, I don't know. We'll put this in here. It's probably not really the answer, but if we sit this on here like this, then sit this on here, you can see. Now I was going to go and get all the plywood cut for this, but I didn't get there on Sunday. That's the Golden Fleece, Bill. As in James and the Golden Fleece. Homer's Odyssey and all that stuff. The Greeks, etc, etc, etc. So, William Henry, g'day. Dan's got the boiler inspection thing sorted. Good on him, he's a legend there. So this H.E. Sleigh Golden Fleece, and this was the Golden Fleece, which is a very Greek sort of symbology there. So we're going to put these on here, and then we're going to put a backdrop around 2 sides at least, 2.5 sides or something, and some boards through here. Put a crank in the front. A crank on the side would be good, but that sort of eliminates anyone who's left-handed. It's a bit of a problem. I think I've got a crank here. What do I do with that? I was looking at it here the other day and thinking that might be the thing or it might not. What do I do with that? Jeez Louise, I don't know where that went. I had it anyway. I had a hand crank that I thought was going to be a good thing for that. Probably still will be. It's probably here on the bench somewhere. No, can't see it. So, a hand crank, put a little round brass plate with an arrow on it and all that stuff. And a shaft through here. And probably some sort of right angle drive here. Something very simple. And another shaft through the back. Or a shaft up and down. Now, I was going to run some gears, and these are really good because they've got a bit of friction in them, and they're also don't require two pivots, which is really nice, so we don't have to drill holes in the top and bottom boards. So the theory was that I was going to run a gear in here, or a plate for transferring the coins in this one, and then probably on top of that another one with a gear, so they run independently, and have this sort of, so that what you want ideally with a mechanism is that when you turn this handle, you want to turn it about 6 or 7 times. Probably 10 times maximum. No, it's not the turntable for your living van. It is a bit light for that. I do have some ideas about turntables for living vans from the plates that we've got for the sawmill when we're done with them. Anyway, so what you're going to have is a slot here somewhere, probably, or a slot here beside the handle, right? When you turn the handle, it drops in, and we're going to have like a plate on this lady Susan that transfers them across and wipes them onto the next one, or onto something else, or onto a slope, or onto a conveyor, or whatever, and moves them across in some manner and drops them down a hole in the other end. It's got to be pretty bomb-proof. But what you want, something 10 turns that it moves all these figures on top, like a couple of puppets on top, and the machines through one cycle or so. But you really want to run the coin through in probably 4 or 5 circles, probably, so that, yeah, anyway. That's way that's going. I think I'm going to probably put 2 grooves across here and a short bit of plywood in the front to mount that on and put the plate on, like an automatic plate and then a handle. Either that or we make a round handle, like a chaff cutter handle with a band on it, and put an arrow on that, which might be nice too. Probably better actually, because no one's going to pinch their fingers in it. So that's the thought. And then from here we have a series of cams or levers or whatever, or wires or whatever, to run the puppet and get them in place. And we're going to have like a, anyway, this is the theory. We're going to have to put a Haspin staple or a lock or something on here too, so that you can't just open the top of it. Anyway, this is how this is sort of working. I've got this on, and I've got this one on. Try not to get them too wet or anything, or dirty or anything, before they get varnish on them. But I'm going to put 2 bits of 6mm plywood through here, which gives us a space for a collar, and that stops the shaft moving backwards and forwards if we put a collar in between here, and that's all hidden. And probably a handle through here of some sort, or whether we run a sprocket or a belt, or whether we make it gear drive, or whether we use like pegs and pins and a wooden sprocket and dowels, or something pretty rudimentary, and probably a wooden mechanism to make it all work. We've got a guy up this end with a little wood lathe, right, and he'll be pedaling that and moving his chisel backwards and forwards. And a guy here, probably with a steam engine, or fridge is portable here, half out the door at the back, so you can actually see through it. We'll put a clear back in it or something. And if we do that, that probably allows a bit of light into here as well, I'm thinking. And then we have a guy here picking up the bits that he's actually turning, balustrades or whatever, and throwing them in the firebox of the engine. And probably the engine running as well. So that's the theory with that. That should be very, very cool. That's the theory. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. That's where we're at with that. Probably we could put a ramp here for the coins and have them run down here onto something down the middle and have that turn round and wipe off the end onto another plate and have that turn round and wipe the coins into a hole on that plate into the machine. So that's sort of what I'm thinking. If anyone has any feedback on this or really wants to mess around with an odometer, who's close by and wants some projects, or you want to do some drawing for it, or you want to draw up some parts, I was going to laser cut the machines. I'm probably just going to make patterns and cast them in aluminium because I think that's cheaper and easier and quicker, and it looks cool, and then just file them up. And if at some point we decide to change this or toss it or whatever, we've got some actual machines for steam workshops, model steam workshops, which would be nice. And probably we could put a couple of model steam workshop machines in here as well. They're already set up, so that saves a bit of effort. Anyway, if we're all following along, that's the donation box at this point in time. I think this is going to be really cool, and I'm going to be pretty happy with this. So that's where we're at with it. That's something I spent 3 hours on. Over this weekend. That's about it too. No more time than that. It says the UK seems to manufacture very little and everything comes from China. Is it the same in Australia? Yeah, I guess so, probably. We do manufacture stuff, absolutely, but it's fairly specialist stuff normally, and it's stuff that's too big to post. As far as electrical appliances and small things and electronics and clothing and stuff like that, stuff comes from China. I don't know if you can fix that, but it keeps China wanting to invade us because we spend so much money with them, which is probably not a bad thing either. So anyway, that's another job. I actually cast a couple of these over the weekend too, because these are from my mate Phil, and that was what the brass was in aid of. He gave me some brass in exchange for a couple of these in gunmetal, so they're done. These cast really nice, this plate. Anyway, Phil's got them. I got them sorted. I left them up there because I hadn't fettled them again yet, but I'll probably, once we get ready to go, and if next week we can get that gear ready to pour and poured, then I'm probably going to spend a day fettling at some point, or half a day. Anyway, that's where we're at. What else? Don't know if there's anything else much. The launch guard's been we're waiting to get that back from the welder, and when we do that, yeah, we might have to take that frame off and modify it and give it a coat of paint and put it all back together, because we've got nothing else to do. Motion guards are at the sheet metal guys. Haven't picked them up yet. I haven't got a message to say that they're ready. I imagine they're probably not far away. They were having an inch return on them, or a 4-inch return with an inch radius on them put on the ends. They were going to do that for us, and probably roll the brass up for them. How much water does the roller use per mile, Fridge? Oh my gosh, how long's a mile? Depends on the going and where we're going, and how fast you're going and what the road's like and all that sort of stuff. But it's about 8 kilometres out to Jericho Road, and that's usually where we stop to fill up with water. And 8 kilometres we use about 400 gallons, 350 gallons, something like that. So that's no, that's not right. It's not that much. Maybe it is. 50 gallons a kilometre, something like that. 40 gallons a kilometre, 30 gallons a kilometre, which is 100 litres, 120 litres or something for a kilometre. No, that doesn't sound right, but it might be. Fridge will know. $400 gallons? Is that right? And about 120 gallons a kilometre in high gear. Some of that's pretty steep going, and some of it's sort of engine braking, and some of it's stopped, and some of it's, yeah, 300-400 litres maybe. It might be 300 litres. 400 litres is only 100 gallons. The tank holds a lot more than 100 gallons. But 50 litres for a kilometre sounds more like it than 50 gallons, so I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Some difficult questions happening here. But use a bit of water. Yeah, it's fairly heavy. I'm suspicious it's probably a 12-tonne roller, because the modifications to it are more than 5. Well, they're 5 tonne over what it's supposed to be a 10-tonne roller, and I think it's probably a 12. But I've never ever seen a 12-tonne roller to see how much bigger it is physically. Never had it beside an 8-tonne roller to see how much bigger than that it is. So I don't know. I've got no idea. It's supposed to be a 10-tonne roller. Might be. Might not be. I think the tank holds 300 gallons, something like that, which is... No, it doesn't though, because ICB is a tonne of water, which is 250 gallons, and it's nowhere near an ICB full, so it's probably half an ICB full, which is 500 litres, 400. Yeah, French is probably right. 400 litres to 8 kilometres, which is 50 litres, something like that. 50 litres a kilometre. 80 litres the mile, which is 20 gallons the mile, something like that. That sounds more like, I don't know. Anyone got any easier questions? That's exactly right. Bill's right. ICB is 1,000 litres of 1 tonne. That's right. Anyway. And how much wood? Nowhere near that much wood. In that same trip, we probably used 3 or 4 barrel loads of wood, if that. Yeah. Anyway. How's the weather? It's cold. It's a bit miserable. It's a lot more miserable where Bill is, because Bill hasn't got a heater probably either. I don't know how Bill's heater situation's getting along. But it's cold enough up here. Jumper today. I'm wearing a jumper now. Look at that. It's terrible. Easy question. Should you buy a pipe Ultron? Yes, you should. No, it's not big enough. It's a really little engine. And it's a big project. No, you shouldn't is the answer. While I'm all about enabling, TMB, no. For one, it's a little engine, and it's also 4 years of your life that you're not going to get back finishing it if you really get in and have a go at it and don't lose interest and do something else in the meantime. It could be 8 or 10 years of your life getting it finished. And as much as you're going to spend on the engine, you're going to spend on it again. And while a 1.5 inch Ultron's very nice, it's not a very big engine. It's sort of, you can put it in the boot of the car probably, but it's going to struggle to pull a couple of people around too. Fridge is kind of right. Buy a half scale engine. Like seriously, sell the 3 inch and buy a half scale. Buy yourself a half inch Foster or a Burrell or something. Or even a Foden wagon, something like that. Because that's an engine you can rally. You can do road runs with. It's safe. It's got some serious pulling power. It'll pull a car around or 2 cars around, or it'll pull a trailer with a, and it's got some horsepower. It's easy to work on. It's got a boiler that you can actually see inside and do stuff with, and you've got some resale value on it. There we go. You buy it for 6 inches fast enough and rally it on the road. You drive it to where you're going. That's what you do. Anyway, no pressure, but that's what I would do too. Fridge is right. But you've got to have space for it and all that stuff. And like me, I haven't got space for it. And you've got to be really keen on steam. But whatever you buy, whether it's going or not, you're going to spend a lot of time working on it. So you've got to be really, really passionate about what you get. Nigel bought a 3 inch scale Ultron, 17 years build time off and on. Yeah, that's exactly right. Also, don't think it's any cheaper batch or less work than a 4.5 or a 6. But don't let us talk you into it. But I personally can't speak for you, but personally, I bought a roller because I'm a little bit passionate about it. I'm passionate enough about it to get it finished and get it where I want it and to do some work on it. I'm not... I have my moments on it. And right now, I just like to put it in the shed and park it up and pull the doors out of it and cover it up and leave it there for 6 months and not even look at it. But that's not how it's going to work. So that's subject to change. Sometimes I'm mad keen on it, and sometimes I'm right, yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing with this. But if I'd bought a miniature, I probably would have not had the drive to finish it. That's where I'm at. Well, I'm hoping for no surprise repair costs. However, 6-inch boiler is no more expensive to repair than, say, a 3-inch copper boiler. I don't believe. And it's less likely to have issues. And if it's built right and it's maintained right, look, the worst thing that's going to happen is that in 15 years' time, you're only going to get a 50 PSI ticket for it. And that's worst, absolute worst case scenario. But if it's maintained right, and there shouldn't be any reason why it's not 90% in 15 years of what you've got now. So, and certainly putting a set of tubes or even a throat plate or a tube plate or a new smoke box on a steel boiler is going to be a whole lot cheaper than putting it on a copper boiler. And it's not going to be much different if the thing's 18-inch diameter than if it's like 9 inches diameter. Don't know. I'm not really the person. But yes, I see what you're saying. The full-size rollers that you can afford is the boiler. You need to be... That's exactly right. And there are rollers around that we could afford. And there's rollers that me and Fridge could afford. But there's a lot of work in them. And a lot of work getting the boilers right. And you need a lot of helpful mates with boiler shops and riveting gear and dirty clothes that don't mind crawling around in build spaces, knocking tubes out and stuff like that. My Facebook display picture on my profile is me crawling around inside a actually Williams boiler trying to free up tubes. Not much fun, but it's got to be done. And if you've got mates, that's cool. Because if you've got mates, then everyone gets dirty, everyone does the same job, everyone helps each other along, and you get the job done. And I think that's probably more of a thing than, say, if I had a miniature, because I'd end up doing the work myself with very little input. And when I took it somewhere, probably people would be keen on it. But yeah, I'm glad I bought a roller, but it's a big job. But there are people who don't mind helping out, and I really appreciate the mates I've got that do jump in and have a go. Couldn't do it without Fridge, absolutely, whatever anyone says. And couldn't do it seriously without other people in the community who are pretty happy to give us a hand, complain about them not turning up to work and bees and things, but they got families and stuff. But couldn't do anything without them. And the ones that do, yeah, wouldn't be messing with it. But it's all about community too, and about hanging with friends. It's really nice. You've got no idea how dirty you get, Peter. Boil off another 10 grades for the steamboat. That's right. Nice little steam launch is a good idea. You've got to have water to run it on. It's like having a train. You've got to have a track to run it on. That's all very well if you've got one locally and you can pop down there and sort of Sunday after lunch and run your engine. That's cool. If you haven't got a track and you've got to build a track, that's expensive. And the same with a boat. If you haven't got a slipway nearby and you can go and run it and take it in, you've still got to do anti-fouling and cleaning and draining and washing and servicing boilers and stuff. So I don't know, I think if you want to get into steam, a 6-inch miniature sounds like a really good idea. But then again, I'm probably completely biased. Anyway, I don't have an answer. Just after that diatribe, I haven't got an answer about that. Don't know, don't care. Do what you like. Spend the money. But to my mind, what's a 4.5-inch miniature traction engine worth in the UK now? £10,000, something like that. Don't know. 15 maybe for a good one. And what's a 6-inch traction engine worth? Probably not much more, because people have got to have somewhere to put it. Everyone's faced with the same problems you are. Anyway, it's not until you get on your back under a full-size engine and ash out and pull the ash pan off in a puddle that you know just how miserable steam engines can be. I think that 15k would probably buy a fairly nice or a fairly reasonable 6-inch engine that needs a little bit of tidying up and work. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're more like 30. James says, how many 12-ounce beers per... What's a 12-ounce beer? How big's a 12-ounce beer? How many mils in a 12-ounce? There you go. I don't know that. 100k plus for full size. That's the same here, depending on what you get. I could find you an Aveling roller or a roller that needs a lot of work, or an engine that needs a lot of work, for about 40 or 50 here. But you're going to spend 100 on it, whatever you get. I believe that. Um, 12 ounces is nearly a pint, so that's it's a stubby, is it? Or a long neck? Two per kilometre, and we add them up and have them in the evening. Yeah, we tend to do that, more or less. Officially, that's the line we're taking. I approve that sentiment. That's excellent. Not convinced it's how it works, but we do approve of that. Long neck is a pint. See, Bill knows. Bill's been in a point in his life where he's bought long necks in paper bags. We've all been there. Anyway, what else is happening? I've got to get thread cutting gear going on the lathe at some point. I'm going to have to jury rig something up because I've got to thread those 2 nuts for that injector. Got to do that pretty soon. There's other threading jobs as well. I'm going to have to sketch up some details on this mechanism and the guys and people and stuff and sort of make something that works. I think I need to make the top first, but I'm going to put these panels in here so that this is all sitting up where it needs to be. I'd like to put a door in this end of the back wall with the engine so that the light comes in, and so the light comes in the back here so you can see the movement, and nice big chunky plywood gears in here and that sort of thing, so you can see it working when you turn the handle. Anyway, that's one thing we're working on. Other bits are all roller bits. Like, there's roller bits here everywhere. And some point this week I've got to go and buy 4 new tyres for the car if all goes to plan. That's $1,000 I suppose. I got a flat last weekend and it wasn't really very happy about that, but I've got to replace 4 tyres and that's got to happen. At some point I've got to do the front brakes. We've already done the back brakes. At some point I've got to get some way of doing the front brakes and wheel bearings. That's sort of becoming more serious too. We've got boiler inspections this month, so I've got to get down there and get the engines ready for boiler inspection at some point, which might be next month early, but we've got stuff to do. Dan's got some engine appointments, and there's a meeting too for the New South Wales Road Steam Association. The AGM is on the 21st after lunch. So that's another appointment that we've sort of got to make an effort to make, or try and make. Yeah, the calendar's full. Just so you know, my calendar's full. Also got a hardness tester of bills to sort out and finish at some point. I've been doing a bit of that a couple of times a week, so we've got a bit done on that. Email just went out from RSA. I'll read that at some point. Yes. Thanks, Dan. So that's where we're at. I want to get some letters on that this weekend. Get another coat of paint on it. Get some letters on there. Bolt this on here. I want to get some boards cut for here so that this is all propped up where it should be. And I need to sketch up some mechanisms and things, and I'd like to get some back walls on this. So that's a few hours on that. Tuesday I'm going to the foundry and we're going to cast that steering gear for the roller in bronze. So that's a job on that. And a few other things that we've got to cast too. There's a rear, what do you call it? A guard plate. I don't know what you call it. It's an Australian thing. On the back of a guard on a vintage or veteran car, generally they had a plate coming up with lines in it, and the name of them, like, they were a nice chrome thing, usually, or brass or whatever. Around the back of the guard, behind the back wheel, it's a kick plate, I guess you would call it, or the back of the running board. It's a very Australian thing. You don't really see American cars with those. I don't think that they were fashionable in America, but in Australia very much so. Got one of them to cast for a customer at the foundry, so we'll be working on that and gunmetal. I've also got some plates to clean up and a couple more to cast. I've got gear to cast, and there's a couple of gunmetal bearings for that little bearing block that's over there in the corner that I've got to do too. So they're all projects that we're working on at the moment. It's all go. Sunday, Monday, I want to get some stuff done around here, so probably not going to try not to go out anywhere Sunday, Monday, and get some actual things done. So next week you should see some progress. There should be things to actually look at and see. Might have some threads in them, as injector nuts. Might have some major castings. Might have some progress on the donation box. Yeah, anyway. Might have the guard back for the launch. And might have some actual panels painted too, like a start on some panels for some projects and things. Anyway, we'll see what happens. See how we go with that. I haven't felt like I've slept at all this last weekend, and I'm working, sort of leaving home at 7 o'clock and getting home at 7 o'clock, so it doesn't leave a lot of daylight hours, and I've still got a job to do on the 3D printer for work tomorrow, so I better get in and do that. But anyway, I'll be up for a little bit on the computer, so if anyone wants to chat on Discord, that's cool, jump on, come and say hello. I did a live stream last night on Onshape, which is a 3D CAD program. There was 8 or 9 people watched it at some point. Concurrently, there were 9 people watching it at one point. I don't know if that's helpful to anyone. I kind of enjoy the thought process and the talk out loud on CAD work. And it's nice to have some sort of stream of what you're actually doing and what you're accomplishing. And it's nice to work through projects and to actually do things. But I'm not sure if anyone watches it or benefits from it. I don't know who was actually watching it, but there we go. That's what we do. But Bill don't need any new projects. And the little truck, I got the magnets in the door frames. That's one thing I did. It got a bit of rubbing back and some primer and a little bit of filler in the cab. I put the turntable on the chassis permanently. I did a few little jobs. At some point I've got to hang the doors, print and hang the doors, and then start thinking about putting some paint on it. And after that we can do windows and roof, and it's starting to look like finished and some decals and stuff on it. Anyway, here we go. That's that. Thanks, James. Anyway, that's me for tonight. Really appreciate you all tuning in. It's good to catch up with you all. My life sounds a bit crazy, and it is a bit crazy. I've shared about half of what's going on live stream, because the rest sort of all, yeah, it's all sort of may or may not happen. Glenray Timber Festival is cancelled officially. The newsletter, or the poster come out today, cancelled. Next one's 26th, mark the date, 2026. Bit of a nuisance, but that's how you get. Next one's going to be a big one, like seriously big one, I think. Pretty keen to see that. It's going to be fun. There's a national rally at the end of August, and in September there's the Letterheads convention at TAFE College in Sydney. Not sure which one. Big TAFE College in Sydney. So I would like very much to get to that. I'm not feeling like it probably is.
I've got a question for your viewers.
Yeah, Joe has a question.
Are there any concrete experts in there? I want to do stupid things to my concrete slab out there. Can I show?
Yeah, go for it. Let's have a look at Joe's concrete slab.
Have a look at my workshop.
I'm going to hold my finger over the lens while we go through Joe's bedroom. Right, this is censored, right? Censored there. I should be able to pixelate that. This is Joe's workshop.
Yeah.
We haven't actually been out here before.
Yeah, so this is my machine. The question is, obviously I have too much room in here. I want to put a bigger machine in here, but this wall is a load-bearing wall. To put a bigger machine in, you really need to reinforce this slab. But I've been told you can't reinforce a slab, from here to here, so I can support 6 tons when it's that close to the footing. I don't know if anyone's a structural engineer.
My thoughts are you put down a sheet of 10mm plate.
But this thing's 2 ton, that thing's 2.5 ton. The question basically, if you want to upgrade one of these things, they don't get much bigger, but they do go up to about 5 tons.
They get a lot heavier.
They get a lot heavier. That's
a lot more metal in them.
And I don't really want to knock the house down by accident. So I don't know.
Well, it's all got to come through the door too.
Hey, we'll get it through the door, but the question is, how do you reinforce a concrete slab that's close to a footing? That's the real question.
Don't have an answer.
Anyway, if
Underpin it.
does,
but anyway, this is where it all happens out here. Well, this is,
If anyone wants to buy a CNC lathe,
yeah, CNC lathe for sale.
This guy's possibly for sale.
Yeah.
Nice big pouring bars, big chuck, bed about as wide as my arm, so it can take a
There you go, Mark.
cut like you wouldn't believe.
That'd be right down here. You've got room for it.
Fanuc control.
You'd be down for that, Mark. You could make Whitworth nuts to the
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where it's really would shine, actually, if you could be bothered tooling it up. And this is a little half go.
You just have to buy a drill bit and
Mark says, how much?
honestly, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 is what I was thinking. That's what I paid for it roughly. I paid about 8 for it. But I don't know what they're worth these days.
They're running on 3-phase, yeah.
But the advantage is it works, and anything Fanuc you can still get parts for.
Yeah.
The disadvantage is it doesn't have a tailstock.
Right, it's just a live. There's no tailstock assembly on it.
The advantage is it's got a 7.5 kilowatt spindle, and spindles can sometimes go up to their twice their rated power. This thing, before it was restored, the bed was re-scraped, or the saddle was re-scraped. It actually had a mark on the bed from chips hitting it, and all they'd been doing is they'd just been putting big brake rotors in there and taking monstrous cuts all day. This thing, the ability of a lathe to take a cut, or the rigidity of a lathe, is sometimes a measure of the bed width. And you see my arm.
Yeah, it's a crazy wide bed, isn't it?
If you come over here,
yeah,
look at my arm versus a normal lathe bed.
That's a pretty solid machine.
It is solid as fuck, and it's
fast, and it's
fast,
a crazy amount of power.
Horrifying. One of the reasons I don't use it is it's terrifying. It's a serious machine. That thing's a toy compared to the mill. But if you've got short, stubby parts that you want a machine,
anyway. If you're interested in some swarf too, we'll give you that at a scrap price. But this machine's all nice and clean. Look at that. How cool is that?
But yeah, this thing's completely piss weak compared to that thing. But it's a nice machine, obviously. Strongly recommend buying one of these if you've got a spare 25,000 when they come up. Incredibly versatile machine, as you've probably seen with Emma's gearbox. It was made in this, and you can make just about anything on them.
Bernie Sanders on a folding chair.
Yeah, These are unbelievable.
So there we go.
Yeah.
I'm going to center you again and go back through. That way lies the rest of the workshop and the surface grinder. We're going to have a look out here. Is the light on?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's on actually. Yeah.
Let's have a look out here while we're going.
Yeah.
This place is all over the place. This is Joe's rebuilt grinder.
Yeah.
Very nice machine now. You put a lot of work into that though.
Yeah.
Put it all apart and cleaned it. New spindle.
Made the spindle. Yeah. All this was made on the milling machine, that entire spindle enclosure. The accuracy of it is closer than 1mm, so I couldn't measure the error. Anyway, so it's about less than a tenth. Yeah, it's pretty complicated. You got to hold the spindle.